Listen to my podcast about
Bad
sports, about
sports, bad
sports, about
sports, bad
sports.
sport. Ba-da-ba-ba.
Howdy.
That was
From the
awful.
tailgate, home of Aggie football. What's up,
Yeah.
Corey?
Hey, buddy.
Hey, this is take number 2.
Yeah. Take number two. We had technical difficulties earlier.
Apparently, you need like internet for this whole thing operation to work. And I don't know if folks can tell, but I'm sort of out of my element over here in a different place, not at home. And so we're just making do. We're on the phone. My clearly my picture's
Yeah.
real small over here. Corey's face is really big. So we're gonna make that work.
Yep. Hey,
It's unfortunate for all the
your face
listeners.
is really big right now. You're like,
I don't know how this is gonna show up when in the actual recording, but we'll find out.
I'll probably watch this one.
Hey, today's episode is brought to you by Matthews Electric, full service electrical contractor in the Brazos Valley. No job too big, no job too small. Call Blaine at
Big Bad Lane.
979-220-6403. That's 979-220-6403. Light up your home, light up your
Right up
life.
your life.
Love it. Uh,
Yep.
email us at agstailgate@gmail.com. YouTube, subscribe. Uh, today's football topic is from one of our YouTube listeners who suggested that we do a SEC head coach ranking.
All
Corey, who
right.
was it that suggested that?
I think what you said his name was Chuck Bobuck.
Oh, Chuck.
But banana fan of
Chuckwabi.
folk. Yep.
Yep, Chuckwabi. That's who it was. Good
There
job.
you go.
Thank you, Chuckwabi. Hopefully this is everything you wanted it to be. Uh
Hasn't been so far, Chuck.
Today we start with a little bit of baseball. Look, Corey, hey, big win against Florida in the opener in
Huge.
the College World Series. Bats
Huge.
struggled some, but the pitching staff really came through, and so did the defense because Jace Lavalette pulled one back from the home run section
Yeah.
and saved the game for Achenbach.
Yeah, he did. He absolutely did. That ball should have been gone. Good thing Jace is tall. He just reached up and grabbed it. No jumping.
He jumped.
It was not really an athletic play. It was more just I'm
No,
tall,
he
brought it
he
back.
jumped. He jumped and brought
He
it back.
didn't really jump. Not really much
I
of a
mean,
jump.
just go look at the video.
I will.
But he look, a lot of credit to him. Obviously, he didn't have a hit in the game. But he did have that play. A lot of credit also to Sorrell, who had a nice game at the plate, two hits there. But I think if I were to give the player of the game ball to somebody, it'd probably be Lampkin, who gets this start, after having a little bit of a rough end of the season and goes 3 innings shutout.
Yeah, I'd probably give it to all three pitchers. I mean, Lampkin did really good. Cortez did great. I mean, he had a couple old Cortez moments where he got a little out of control. He plunked that guy in the head with a 90 something mile an hour fastball.
Woo, woo.
That was scary. The guy just shook it off like, hey, PTD happens every day.
Sounds good.
So, yeah. So,
Yeah, he had the little 1 inning thing, and like I said, hell, Sorrell almost saved it for him with a spectacular driving catch, but didn't quite get there, right? So and then Ashenbach, I mean, had little struggles there in the ninth, obviously, and with almost giving up the home run, and he wasn't quite as solid as he usually is. But at the end of the day, you get a win in game one. You don't have to go through the losers bracket. You're up through, you get a 3-2 win, and that's huge. That's huge in the World Series. Now
right.
now you get Kentucky. They're playing right now. It's 0-0.
Aggies have a runner on first with two out. Garhovac is up.
There we go. Let's go, Grohovic. Grohovic's got to snap out of it. So let's hopefully he can get that going and get us
And
a hit here. And
we're through four. We're in through four, and we have a no hitter going right now.
no hitter, baby. And look, Prager after a shaky outing there in his start at the Super Regionals.
Mhm.
Coming back with a pretty strong performance so far here tonight, right?
Right.
I also wanted to
Yeah,
comment just real
he
quick.
grounded out. Go ahead.
College World Series has probably been the most exciting freaking sporting event this year because the first three games, three walk-offs. Fourth game, Jay Lavalette saves a walk-off, or that wouldn't have been a walk-off. We'd have had a chance to bat in the bottom, but basically ends the game by bringing back a home run.
Yeah.
And it's just been unbelievable, man. And the fans there are crazy. They every game they get up for it. And I've just been super impressed with this College World Series this year. All SEC, all ACC, nothing but the best of the best in the country. And boy, they've been showing out. Let's hope we can continue this run for the Aggies. But honestly, I'd go just to watch the World Series in general, and I think I'm going to try to go next year.
I think you should. Me, probably won't go, but I'll be
No,
watching on
you,
TV.
yeah, you and your kids are going to be hanging out.
Yep.
All right, so let's move on. Let's get on to some football here. Today's topic: SEC head coach rankings, and like I said, we've got this idea from one of the listeners. And then I did a little research, and On3 has put out their rankings for 2024.
Yep.
Let me just start off by reading these out. We'll go from 16 all the way up to 1.
All right.
On3's got Jeff Levy at 16, Jeff Levy at Mississippi State,
Okay.
Clarkley at Vanderbilt at 15, Sam Pittman, Arkansas 14, Bila Napier, Florida 13, Shane Beamer, South Carolina 12, Brent Venables at Oklahoma 11, Hugh Freeze at Auburn at 10, Mike Elko, 9. Mark Stoops at Kentucky 8, who, by the way, we decided not to hire Mike Elko. Eli Drinkowitz at Mizzou at number 7, Josh Heupel at Tennessee at 6, Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss at 5, Steve Sarkisian, Texas 4, Kellen DeBoer at Alabama 3, Brian Kelly at 2 at LSU, and Kirby Smart, Georgia, number 1. Let me just start by saying I don't think anybody's going to argue with the number 1, right? I mean, I think Kirby is a no question best in the country until proven otherwise. 94-16 overall record, more than 2 losses only twice in 8 seasons, and one of those included an 11-3 in 2018. And the other one was his first season at Georgia. And so, dude, I think the dude is as good as they get. He is Nick Saban after Nick Saban. He's also figured out how to use the recruiting and transfer portal situation. He doesn't have to overdo it in the transfer portal, but he understands how to bring in just enough pieces there. I think he's as good as they get. His recruiting classes every year are top 3 or 4, and the results show it every year. Any question about number 1, Corey?
No, not right now. I mean, if he has another down year like last year, then there'll be questions. I mean, you don't. I'm just saying.
Down year like last year, huh?
Hey, he's set the bar pretty high. If he doesn't if he doesn't win the national championship, it's a down year now. That's a
How many games did he lose last year?
one big one.
1. That is correct.
Big
That's a
one.
big number. 1.
It's a big loss.
Yeah. He's as good as they get. And look, that's in the country. That's not in the SEC. That's in the country. He's number 1. He's at the top of the list. I don't think anybody would argue with you.
Wait,
I don't want to
I'm
go
trying to think. Who is number 2 in the country then?
in the country. Ooh. I mean,
I'm just saying. I'm just talking out loud. I'm just thinking, like, if he's number 1 in the whole country, I think there's a lot of people in this list that'll be in the top 10 of the country. Harbaugh's
maybe.
gone. Harbaugh's gone.
Harbaugh was still in if Harbaugh was still in college football, he'd probably be number 2. I would give it to him.
I got to think about that for a while.
But fortunately, this is an SEC list, so we don't have to think about it
Yeah,
too
all
much.
right. Yeah, you're right. Go ahead. We don't need to waste time on me thinking here for a while.
Yeah, those hamsters don't run real fast.
I know. I feel them running right now. It's giving me a headache. It's squeaking up there.
You need to oil that thing.
I know.
uh,
So, what else you got?
all right. So we're all okay with on three's determination. Kirby Smart number 1. I'll tell you what. Let's run down the next group. Right. Let's go into this next group, which I think most people look. They've got Brian Kelly at 2. Brian Kelly, who's 283 and 103 and 2 overall in his career. He's 20-7 in LSU. He's had a decent run with, 10-3, 10-4 in the last 2 years there with bowl wins. But to be honest with you, he's a guy that's never really done it in the biggest stage, right? Like every time they made the playoffs when he was at Notre Dame, they just got absolutely obliterated.
Yeah.
I'm a believer. And last year's performance by this defense, good coach doesn't. You can't have that.
No,
you can't have. Not with the talent you have at LSU. Not with the, not with the tradition that you have at LSU. Not with the facilities and the support and the everything else you have at LSU. You can't have that kind of year defensively, while your offense is absolutely just annihilating people.
Right. No, I agree. I looked at the list and I'm like, Brian Kelly at number 2. I mean, I think he's a good coach. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a good coach. Solid. I don't see him as number 2 in the SEC, because if I say number 2 in the SEC, I'm saying he's a top 2 or 3 coach in the nation. I wouldn't say that.
No.
I have other guys I'd pick over him, like Kalen DeBoer.
And honestly, I'm sitting here looking at this list and I'm thinking, well, shit, I don't know if I'm sort of thinking, well, maybe I wouldn't have him into my top 5, but honestly, at some point it becomes like, okay, well, yeah, he probably is a top 5 guy in there. I mean, you got to give him some credit for the history that he's had over the last, 10, 15 years, right?
We'll see what happens this year without Jalen Daniels and those weapons outside. Are they going to come back down to reality and have like a 7-5 season or something? If they go 7-5 this year, what does that move him to? Does that move him down to like number 6 on the list?
Probably depends on what these other guys do, right?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, if we're playing the what if games, because we like to play, hey, how many wins this guy going to get this year? Georgia's going to win 11 games this year. LSU's going to win 7 or 8. I think he goes down.
Yeah, I think he goes down. I think he's already down. I don't think he's number 2. He might be in the running for 3 or 4. There's a chance that that's the case, maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But he's not number 2. And I think to me, that's for one reason and one reason specifically. And that's that I think Kellen DeBoer is number 2. To me, what he has done, not only at Washington, but previously also, I think just, it's impressive. I think it's impressive. And to me, that puts him at the top of this list outside of Kirby Smart, who's got the national championships, who's got.
That's where I was going with number 2 earlier. I was going to say Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer was still at Washington. John Harbaugh's gone. Saban's retired. I think you're saying DeBoer's the number 2 coach in the nation as of right now. But now he goes into Alabama. Everybody's like, oh, what's going to happen? Why does he move down for going to Alabama?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
That's a really good question, right? Why would he move down to go when he goes from the University of Washington to Alabama? That's not it.
It makes no sense.
I guess if you're looking nationally, if you're looking nationally, I think we got to consider. Oh
Mac
boy,
Brown.
no, at Oregon, uh, you got
What happened to Mac Brown? I thought he
yeah,
was on
he's
your tip
like
of your tongue. Like, Mac, no,
right
it's not Mac Brown.
right at the tip of my tongue, right at the tip of my tongue. Yeah. So, but yeah, killing the board. Actually, maybe number 2 in the country,
Yeah.
And I think after DeBoer, now you have to start having a conversation. Is all right. Who are we talking about? So let me bring up some names for you because I think this is the group here that's kind of interesting. Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin, Eli Drinkowitz, Josh Heupel.
I like Josh Heupel next. I like Heupel a lot. I think what he's done with that Tennessee program. I think he's done great. Sark, you got to show me more than just one season. One season. I mean, he had a loaded team. I don't know if
Yeah.
those were his players or were they already there.
So let me ask you this: is there anyone in that group you would put above Brian Kelly?
I'll put Heupel right up there with him. I'll tell you that much. I like Heupel that much.
I I may take I may take I may take Heupel over. No, I'm taking that back. No, I'm not. I'm not. I might take Mike Elko over Brian Kelly at some point. I need Mike Elko to have a little bit better, at least 1 year at A&M, and then I could go all in and say he's number 3.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We should do our list now and then come back with it in the season. And say, yeah, this guy's definitely.
We screwed that up.
Kirby Smart lost 2 games this year. He's dropped to number 10 on the list.
Yeah, number 10. Yeah. But I do think so. With all due respect, man, I mean, like Brian Kelly's got to be in that conversation at number 3. I do think that those first 2 guys that we talked about are my top 2. Then there's and I think that there's a gap. I actually think from those top 2 guys, there's a gap to get to number 3.
I doubt it. I don't think so.
Look, Josh
like
Heupel, who you love right now, Josh Heupel, 50 and
like
22. 50 and 22 overall as a head coach, by the way. 50 and 22 overall as a head coach. Right. 27 and 12 at Tennessee. But let me give you this number.
Yep.
In 3 years, last year he was 7-6. He had an 11-2 season with Hendon Hooker at the quarterback. And he had a 9-4 season with Hendon Hooker at a quarterback.
Well, who was Hendon Hooker before he was a starting quarterback? Hendon Hooker was at Virginia Tech and wasn't that good. He was like, oh, nobody wants Hendon Hooker.
This is the Brady and Belichick argument, right? But here's the thing. Since Hendon Hooker left, he went 7-6.
One season since he left. One season.
All right, let me give you a little bit more. Every year he was at UCF, which is prior to Tennessee, the 3 years prior to Tennessee, his team got worse. Every single year at UCF, his team got worse.
Well, what you want? Okay, I'll ask you this question later. Go ahead. We'll talk about it. Keep going.
I'm just saying. I'm just trying to be devil's advocate for your idea of Josh Heupel being this great coach, because last year they had good receivers. They had talent around the quarterback, but they didn't have that same offense without Hendon Hooker. I need to see him prove it without Hendon Hooker before I give him all that kind of credit. Is I guess my point.
I hear you.
Lane Kiffin, on the other hand, had a little bit of a rough start to his coaching career, maybe, but he's done pretty well over there at Ole Miss, don't you think?
Yeah, he's done a good job. I just think he's too much of a clown for me to be taken serious sometimes. He's got a talented team. This might be the most talented team he's ever had, that he's ever coached as a head coach. This will be it.
I think this will be it. Yeah.
This right here is where we'll see if because he has a returning quarterback, 3-year starter, something like that. Running backs a little bit in. He brought in that transfer. Defense is better. We'll see what he can do. There's no question he's a great play caller. He does some things that make you scratch your head sometimes. But yeah, I think Lane's a good coach. I think he should be up there in the 3rd or 4th spot. I think I'd take him over Steve Sarkisian. I'll tell you that much right now.
Well, and that's what I was going to compare. I think the two guys you probably think of kind of similar are him and, but he's got a better history than Steve Sarkisian, right? Steve Sarkisian had a great year last year at Texas. There's no question about that. They made the college football
Right.
playoffs, but the year before that they were 8-5, and the year before that at Texas with Texas type talent they were 5-7.
Yeah.
He got fired at USC in season two. That he didn't make it through two seasons, right?
Yeah.
He was
Well, that's
34.
what he and Lane Kiffin have in common, USC, right?
Yeah. He was 34-29 at Washington, and that's a program that's obviously had some success without him, right?
Right.
At Texas last year, he made the playoffs. And that's saying something big. But that team was loaded.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Let's see what happens this year.
Yeah. I actually have Lane Kiffin clearly ahead of Steve Sarkisian. Like, it's not to me, the accomplishments that the two have had so far are not in the same ballpark.
So we got Kirby, DeBoer, Kelly, right? Those three.
Kelly DeBoer, Kelly Kiffin, I would probably put him up there about the same.
So who's your 1 and 2? Is DeBoer is number 2?
Yeah,
Smart.
1 and 2 are easy.
And so then 3 and 4 are Kelly and
in
Kelly
my
and
opinion,
Kiffin.
in my opinion, and you know what? I'm going to give one other guy a little nudge here. A guy that, some people may think I don't like very much, but I'm going to give Mark Stoops some credit here. I think Mark Stoops has got to be in that conversation for that third, fourth type coach in this rankings because, and mind you, On3's got him at 8, but that guy's 73 and 65 overall, all at Kentucky. I don't know that people understand how bad Kentucky football was before Mark Stoops. The last time they won 10 wins before Mark Stoops was 1977, right? They've had a total of since 1990. They've had a total of 6 seasons where they were more than 500, outside of Mark Stoops, right?
Well, let me ask you a question. I compare him and Eli Drinkowitz a lot because I think they get a lot without all the talent the other teams have. I mean, they might get a 5-star here or something like that, a top player, but they don't get 10 of them like Georgia does or like Alabama does. You know what I'm saying? They might get one here and there.
Yeah.
I think they do more with less than any of the coaches on here, Mark Stoops and Eli.
I'll respond to Eli Drinkowitz, but let me give you another number here for Mark. He's got by the way, I don't know, two 10-win seasons at Kentucky. 7 out of his last 8 years are above 500. Think about the contrast that we're talking about that he's done with a program. One of those years, 7 of his quarterbacks got hurt. He had a wide receiver playing quarterback.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they still won games, right?
Well, he's in the SEC East. I mean, he's playing Vanderbilt and a down Tennessee team back then, and Florida was after Spurrier.
Yeah, but Florida was up. Florida was better.
You got to take things into where they were at. I mean, they got to play the whole SEC East. I mean, Georgia only been hot for what, 3 years? 3 years?
Like 5, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, the guy hadn't been 5 years. Shut up. It hadn't been
5. Kirby Smart in year 2 went to the national championship. So think about that. Look, I'm just saying, Mark Stoops is a guy that probably doesn't get enough credit. And I know that everybody that's ever watched the show knows that I said, thank God we didn't hire him. I don't think he's the right fit at A&M, but I think he's a really good coach. And I may take him over Lane Kiffin. I may take him over Steve Sarkisian. I may take him over Brian Kelly, for that matter. I mean, I didn't want Brian Kelly either, right? I think he does more with less than any. The question is, how would he do with the top talent? Can he handle those egos and those types of things? And sometimes it's just fit. And I think he's got a good thing going there, Kentucky. I like his fit there, and I'm giving him credit for what he's done over his time there. I think he's higher on this list than what On3 gives him credit for.
Okay, I agree with you. I think he does good with the talent he has. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Um,
how he would work out if he came to an A&M. I don't think it'd be a good fit. Like you said, I don't think his brand of ball would fit in well with our fan base and with our players. He wants to make the
yeah.
game ugly, right? Because he wants to have an ugly game. He wants to play good defense, which is great, but run the ball, control the clock. Kind of, I don't know, old school. It's more old school, it seems like.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And sometimes, at some point he may have to go somewhere other than Kentucky, right? Sometimes the voice just gets lost after you're there for too long.
Yeah,
Or
it's a
you get too
basketball school
comfortable,
stuff.
or whatever, right? So but I'm a big Mike Stoops guy. I think, he may be 4 on this list, somewhere in that grouping. Um, and then I want to come back to your boy Eli Drinkowitz,
All right.
because I actually think Eli Drinkowitz is probably way down this list, somewhere around 11.
What?
Yeah, I
What the
think.
hell? Wait, where
Look,
did you come up with that?
he had a monster year last year for sure.
Yeah,
28, but he's 28 and 21 at Missouri, buddy. You know what he's done
Missouri.
prior
We're talking
to
about
prior to
Missouri.
prior to Missouri won the SEC West when they showed up in the SEC. 11-2 last year.
Wait.
Before that,
They
before
won the
that,
SEC. Wait, did you say the West or the
East,
East?
East, East.
There
Sorry,
you go. That's back when the
East.
SEC East sucked. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe,
That SEC
maybe. Let me ask you. Let me
sucked.
ask you this question. How many SEC division championships has A&M won since we've been there?
None.
Okay. Let me then give you these numbers. Prior to
Yeah,
last year,
Alabama, Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State.
hey man, you play the guys that are on your schedule, right?
Exactly.
Otherwise, before last year, 6-7, 6-7, and 5-5.
I want to say they won the West with like a 9-3 record their first 2 years, like 9 and
Maybe.
3 or something. It wasn't
How
pretty.
many 9-3? How many 9-3 records has A&M had in 12
I think
years in the
A&M beat
SEC?
them one of those years
You
because
know,
we used to play them every year, didn't we? For the first 2 years, we played them the first 2 years or something.
maybe 6-7, 6-7, 5-5. That's what he's done prior to last year. That's
What'd
it.
you say? 5-5.
Yeah, 6-7, 6-7, 5-5. That's your
What's
great
5-5? Is
coach.
that COVID?
That's your great coach. 1 year at App State, by the way. 1 year at App State, 12-1. Yes, good year at App State. 1 year at App State, Corey. That's it. That's his coaching career.
Not bad.
App State, 5-5, 6-7, 6-7, 11-2.
So
And
let's say if he goes 10-2 this year, what are you saying about him?
he's got the easiest schedule in the SEC this year.
Yeah, he plays A&M, right?
He plays at A&M, at Bama, and Oklahoma. Those are the only tough 3 teams that he plays all year long.
The only tough 3 teams. How many tough teams does A&M play? How many tough teams does A&M play?
Notre
4?
Dame, Missouri. They play Missouri. Notre Dame,
Okay, Texas.
Missouri, LSU, Texas. 4.
Oh,
4.
wait. Missouri only plays 3 tough games. You can't go through
That's
the
it.
schedule and find a 4th tough game.
No, I can't.
Okay.
You know what? I've already looked at the schedule. No
All
fourth
right.
tough game.
Okay.
All I'm saying is, if they don't go 10-2 this year, it's a disappointment.
Hey, breaking news. Aggies up 2-0. Go ahead.
Woo!
Sorry.
Woo!
Shot. Hayden
And
shot
look,
drove in.
and here's the other thing that I'm going to tell you about Eli. And look, that team, after all that success this past year,
Yeah.
you know where their recruiting ranking was? 20th in the country. 20th. Like, oh, they're a top 5 team. They're a top 5 team. Well, he can't
They're in
recruit top 5.
Missouri. They're in Missouri. That's what
Listen,
you're not getting to see. They're in Missouri.
but this is part of the coaching ranking. You got not only do you have to get the players to produce, you got to bring the players in. It's a 2-part test.
You got to sell them one. Come on to Missouri with me. You know what? Let's go to Missouri. They had that movie or that TV show, Ozark. Yay, let's go do that. Have you seen that show? I mean, they're out in the wilderness. That's what I
what he
see
could
of
have been
Missouri.
selling, what he could have been selling is, hey, we just beat Ohio State in a bowl game. We should have been in
Yeah,
the college football playoffs. We've got
yeah.
all our talent back. Come play
Not
for
all,
Missouri and
not all,
win a natty. Come win a natty.
not all.
Instead, he didn't do that.
They don't have all their talent back.
And you know what
They
else is
lost
going
a
to happen
running
this
back.
year? I'm calling it right now, and here's my first bold prediction of the day: Missouri not making the playoffs next year. Done.
I can
Done.
see that happening too.
In spite of that easy schedule, by the way.
Well, I think that the easy schedule. I mean, they might have played above. I mean, we saw their hand last year. We saw what they did. They got the ball to that receiver as much as they could. I think teams are going to double team him. They don't have the running game. They lost some O line, and their defense played above what we expected. So I mean, that's the aspects you have to be a winning program like a Missouri does. Is you have to have play your best. Other teams, you just got to win the close games. They won close games against LSU or whoever it was last year. They had shootouts, and I think Cook's a decent quarterback. I like the wide receiver. I can't remember his name to save my life right now.
Burton,
Burton.
number one in the
And
country, best receiver
yeah,
in the country.
I agree. So I mean, I think Missouri and Kentucky are a lot in line with the talent they both get, and I think the coaches do a
Yeah,
good job there.
I'd give Mark Stoops more credit because Mark Stoops is consistently better than 6 and 7. Eli Drinkowitz
Well,
is better than
he's
6 and
done it
7
longer.
once.
Yeah, Mark Stoops has done it longer. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
So that's my opinion. And maybe I said 10. I may be exaggerating. He may not be 10. He may, but I don't think he's 7 either. He's probably closer to 9. I don't know, somewhere in there. I just don't have him at 7. 3-0, baby. How about that?
3-0.
Um,
Camarillo, just talking crap about Camarillo, had to play better. I was telling you earlier today, and just hit a double. Go ahead.
there you go. Don't ever talk crap about Ollie, man.
Well, he had an error this game.
So let's go through it one more time. So far we're at Kirby Smart, DeBoer's 2, 3 and 4 are Kiffin and Stoops. So in some order.
No, you had Kelly. Where's Kelly at?
Kelly and Stoops, 3 and 4, right?
So you bumped Stoops above Lane Kiffin?
I did.
Okay. All right.
5 so I don't know, 5 and 6 then in some order, or what? Kiffin and Heupel?
I guess you just told me to F off. I guess you told me to F off about my Josh Heupel thing, huh? Yeah,
no, I'm saying Heupel. Okay, so you like Heupel at 4? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I like the guy. I thought he should be up in the top 3 or 4, yeah, but you got him dropping down to 5 or 6.
All right, let's put Heupel at 5. We'll drop Kiffin down to 6.
Yeah, I think so. I just think Kiffin and Sark. I think Kiffin and Sark, they have to do it. Has Kiffin done it consistently? I mean, Heupel hasn't probably done it consistently either, but they've had more talent than what Heupel's had, I think, at Texas and at Ole Miss right now. Ole Miss.
Well, don't put Sarkisian in this group because I think Sarkisian's below both of those guys.
I think so too.
But Kiffin and Heupel, yeah, I think Kiffin's got a little bit more history to it, but it's recent history for sure. Heupel's got to just prove that he can do it without Hendon Hooker.
So if we didn't have Mike Elko, you said, hey, you can either have Lane Kiffin or Josh Heupel. Who are you taking?
Well, I think Kiffin's a clown, so
that's what I'm saying. I just said that.
He's not a fit.
So
he doesn't fit.
You take Heupel, right?
Out of those two guys, if those are the two I have to choose from, I'd probably take Heupel because Heupel at least isn't a clown. I want somebody that's a serious person.
But you didn't want Mark Stoops. He's very serious.
He is very serious.
Very serious. So you want a little bit of a clown and a little bit serious, huh? You want you want like a Jimbo Fisher, huh?
No, Jimbo's like the ultimate clown.
Whatever, they just didn't execute. What the hell's wrong with you?
They didn't execute, baby. But like for example, like Mike Elko, you can see when he talks, 5-0. Aggies.
Aiden Kent.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Still got a no-hitter going on top of the 6. Go ahead.
And I think and once again, I may be wrong, but I do bring Mike Elko into that conversation. I'd probably take Mike Elko over any one of those guys for A&M. I think he fits here better than those guys do.
I agree. I agree with that.
Now,
But we're not saying
we
that.
may
We're
get our ass
saying
kicked in
as
game
a
1, 2, and
coach.
3 next year, and I'll change that. I'll change my attitude real quick.
So is that who we're on now? Are we on Elko right now?
Yeah, and so that's who I'm putting. I'm putting him in with Josh Heupel. I'm putting him in with Lane Kiffin. That's who I'm
Nah,
putting him in with.
I
He
don't
doesn't
think
have
so.
the
Not yet.
history. He doesn't have the
Nope,
history,
that's the
but his
problem. He's done it at Duke and the ACC. And the ACC we see is down. When a team like Florida State goes undefeated, can't even make the playoffs, that's what the public, what the
yeah. But
the
think about the
nation
fact
thinks
that
about the ACC.
before he got to Duke, that team won like one game the year before, two.
Well, I
Right?
understand that. I'm not saying he did a great job there. I'm just saying as a whole, that's like Billy Napier doing great at Louisiana and then coming here and not doing shit at Florida.
And that team won like one or two games with Daniel Jones, who got drafted like in the first 5 picks by the New York Giants.
Well, a quarterback doesn't make the team. It's a team game, Alejo, dickhead.
Good job, New York Giants. Y'all are
Yeah,
freaking geniuses.
they suck. But that's the whole case with a lot of these coaches. I mean, you're at Duke. He did a great job there. Not the talent,
Yeah.
but the people he was playing. He's playing Virginia, NC State. I mean, the
What's gonna
great
yeah,
Mac Brown. He
what
played the great Mac
happens
Brown.
what happens when what happens when he comes and plays? Well, not only plays in the SEC, but what happens when his roster is full of better talent? Can he get as much of the talent, the higher talent players, as he did out of the middle talent players at Duke? Can he
That's the
still get the
question.
same effort?
That's what we're talking. That's what I'm talking about with Billy Napier. He couldn't do it from Louisiana to Florida. He
Absolutely.
did it.
So, Mike Elko's got something to prove, but you know what?
Yes,
I would take
lots.
Mike Elko's upside over Eli Drinkowitz.
You don't have a choice. We're stuck with him right now.
It's good. I'm glad. I'm glad.
Yeah, I think he's doing a great job the offseason, like all this football talk and stuff. But until we see it on the field, I mean, you put that Duke team he had last year in the SEC against A&M schedule. What does Duke do? You know what I'm saying? The same Duke team.
Probably still 5-7.
Maybe 5-7, 4-8, 3-9. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just saying it's a different class. I mean, we're seeing it in the College Baseball World Series. The ACC is about to get bounced. The SEC
No,
is
but
dominating the World Series.
yeah, I mean, yeah, no, absolutely. But let's not confuse the two, baseball and football here. All right,
I'm just saying it's a different class of athlete. I mean, they show
look,
it in
I'm
enough.
not
Who gets
arguing with
drafted?
you on that. I'm not arguing with that.
They
But
get
what I
50
am
or
arguing with
60
you on is this. What I
draft
am
picks
arguing with you
out of
is
the
this.
SEC.
What I am arguing with is this, and that is the fact that what he did at Duke was an incredibly good job.
It was. I agree.
And now I agree with you. I agree with you in the sense that he's got to go prove it in the SEC. But I would take his upside over Eli Drinkowitz. I would take his upside over Lane Kiffin because Lane Kiffin is a clown. And I don't like Lane Kiffin.
I agree with the clown. But according to our list, where would I have Mike Elko on our list? I don't think I would have him in the top 10 as of right now.
I'd have him at
That's
7.
me. That's retarded. He hasn't done anything but at Duke.
Sometimes you got to take the upside, man.
I'm not taking the upside yet. I need to see it.
I already know that Eli Drinkowitz.
I'm happy he's here, but I can't say I'm not going to do my biased opinion like you're doing. Oh, he's an Aggie, so I got to put him in. He's probably
this ain't
number 2
bias.
behind
This
Kirby.
ain't bias.
He might be
this
number
is the
2,
guy,
right? Behind Kirby?
No.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay.
But this ain't bias when I say that. What I do know is that Eli Drinkowitz in 3 years in 3 years has been 5-5, 6-7, 6-7, then 11-2. He's got 1 year, right? And sure, Mike Elko's got 2 good years at Duke. I like his upside with the talent that we have compared to what I already think Eli Drinkowitz is already maxed out. I don't think I don't think he's going to continue to have that success. I don't. I think even if he has a good year in 2024, Eli Drinkowitz is the next year in 2025 is going to go 4-8.
It's
So,
going to be hard to sustain it at Missouri. I think we all know that. It'd be like sustaining at Kentucky. It's going to be hard to do that. They're not
but yet Mark
invested
Stoops
in
does it every
football.
year.
Who?
Mark Stoops does it
Not every.
every
He doesn't do it
year.
every year. He doesn't
He's
do it every
been
year.
a, he's been better than 500
Oh,
7
better
out of
than
the last 8.
500. Is that what you? Jimbo was better than 500 at A&M. Would you have been happy with
You
that?
just made the difference between playing at coaching in Kentucky and coaching at
That's what I'm
A&M. So
saying.
don't. But my point
I'm
is
just
that,
saying. What is your? I mean, what are you looking for?
well,
I
I'm looking for
disagree
a
with
guy
you.
that can be consistent. To be honest with you,
Consistently bad or consistently
no.
good? I mean, there's a different style of consistency.
All
Jimbo was
right, so
consistently bad
maybe
in my book.
hey, we can disagree about Eli Drinkowitz.
Oh no, it's just not about disagreeing. You're just wrong.
No, no, no.
That's what you don't understand about. You're not. We're not disagreeing. You're just wrong.
All right, well, we'll see if that's true in in a few months.
So what are you
Wait,
saying, Missouri? So if Missouri has a
no,
8-4
no, we
season,
don't
is
have to.
that a
We don't have
down?
to.
Is
We
that
don't
a
have to
down
worry about it.
season?
You know what the
Is that
beauty
a
of it
down
is,
season?
Corey?
8-4.
You know what the beauty of it is, Corey? We don't have to worry about it. They play each other. They play
I'm
each
just
other.
saying, if Missouri goes 8-4 this year, is that a bad season for Eli?
If Missouri loses to A&M, who's the better coach? If A&M loses to Missouri, who's the better coach? It's right there, head to head.
They're playing at A&M.
All right. I'm just saying. Missouri's got all. Everybody
You
thinks they're a
also had
top
the
two,
Aggies going
top 5
12-0
team.
this year, don't you? Don't you have the Aggies going 12-0?
Head to head, head to head. Prove it.
I mean, with
Let's move
that, I
on to
mean,
this next. I want to move on to this next group of players before my phone runs out of battery here.
oh, good. Go ahead. Let's do it.
Next group of
Players.
coaches.
You mean coaches?
Coaches.
Yeah.
All right. And this is I think here there's another little group, 10, 11, and 12 that they had ranked. Hugh Freeze, Brent Venables, Shane Beamer. In that order. They've got them at 10, 11, and 12.
I like you
What do you
Freeze a
think?
lot. I like you Freeze a lot. Oh, I mean, he did it on the biggest stage at Ole Miss. Then
Mm-hmm.
he got fired for something that everybody's doing now, paying their players. And they were all doing it back then too. And he won at Liberty. And he's proven that he can do it. He's not even that old yet. He's probably your age. I don't even know how old Hugh Freeze is.
Let me tell you what. Last time Hugh Freeze had success at the SEC was almost 10 years ago. Almost 10 years ago. He's way, way past any time that I would ever want him anywhere near my coaching room. Way past. In the last 3 years, 8-5, 8-4, 6-7.
What?
In the last 3 years at Ole Miss, he was 8-5, 8-4, and 6-7.
Okay. 8-5,
So it's not like
8-4.
he was.
Hey, is 8-5 and 8-4? Would you not take that at Ole Miss?
No. Lane Kiffin's winning 10 games every year at Ole Miss.
Is he beating Alabama every year? Nick Saban.
Listen, you can't. You just you gotta win.
Saying.
You gotta win games you're supposed to win. You gotta win games you're supposed to win. If you wake up for one game a year, like Jimbo Fisher beating Alabama,
there you go.
if you wake up for one game a year, that doesn't cut it.
Yeah, that's it. Kept Jimbo's job. Got him an extension.
Beat
Got him an
Alabama
extension.
and then lose 6 other games. Doesn't cut it.
Got him an extension. Got an extension.
It did.
All right.
Unfortunately.
All right.
Hugh Freeze to
Venables.
me. Hugh Freeze. All that to say is that Hugh Freeze to me is a little lower down this list. I'd probably have him after Venables and Beamer for that matter.
Oh, I disagree with you. I disagree with you totally. No, I disagree. Venables, I think he's a great defensive coordinator. I think he should have gone.
I'm not sure I even agree with that anymore.
No, I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. He seemed great at Clemson. When he comes to Oklahoma, I haven't been really impressed with him at all. His coaching decisions have been making me scratch my head. I think it's going to be bad for Oklahoma when they come to the SEC.
And look, he just made a bet on Jackson Arnold, right? He just put a bet on. They were 10-3 last year, Corey. They were 10-3
in the
last
Big
year
12 with
with
Dylan Gabriel.
Dylan Gabriel. I think they had the fourth best offense in the country with Dylan Gabriel. And they said, "Hey, Dylan, don't worry about it, man. Go on about your way. We're gonna give the ball to Jackson Arnold, and we're gonna see what happens."
Yeah.
And maybe they were afraid of the fact that Jackson Arnold was going to transfer. That's fine. I understand some that to a certain extent, but that team comes out in first year in the SEC because they're playing a first time starting quarterback, comes out and goes 5-7 or whatever it is. He's going to get fired. He's going to
You
get
think he's
fired.
on the hot seat? You think he's that much on the hot seat already?
If he goes, I think if he goes 5-7, he is.
Really?
Oklahoma
Okay.
hasn't lost. When's the last time Oklahoma lost 7 games?
I don't know. I have to go back and look, but
Ooh.
yeah, I mean, I just don't think I think if he would have been smarter to take a lesser, not such a high profile coaching job. I mean, it's great that he got it. You want to get paid, but take like a Kansas or you know what I'm saying? Something that's a challenge.
Yeah, to a certain extent, I think part of
Go
the
to
problem is
Vanderbilt. Go to Vandy.
he was a coordinator for so long that now he understands he's only got so long to do everything he wants to do, and so he thinks
Yeah.
he's the smartest dude in the room, and he's gonna try every last crazy idea he's ever had as a coach, right?
We need
And
to get
I'll be
his
honest
smart
with you,
ass on our podcast then and let him bring him down a peg or two.
yeah, exactly. So I'm not sold on Brent Venables. I actually think this is a big year for him, man. And if I mean, assuming they win every non-conference game, he'll need wins in the SEC over Tennessee, at Auburn, South Carolina, LSU just to get to 8 wins. Right? Is he going to win all those games? Is he going to win all those games? I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. So I don't know. I think he's right there in the mix with Hugh Freeze, or right around 11 and 12. Maybe 12. I like Shane Beamer both better than both of those guys. And I understand his record, especially last year, wasn't great. You know, he was, you know, he needs to bounce back. But his first 2 years there, he was 7-6, 8-5, lesser talent than most teams in the SEC by far, I think. And he's starting to recruit a little bit. You know, his class this year was 22, which is pretty impressive considering what they did in the last couple of years. And yeah, I think that's impressive as a recruiter. Whenever
22,
you
and you were
go,
giving Eli Drinkowitz shit for being number 20.
yeah, because Eli Drinkowitz is coming off a 10-2 year, while
Oh,
Shane Beamer's
okay.
coming off a 5-7. You know what I'm
I'm
saying?
just saying. Well, I think Shane Beamer's might be closer to the hot seat than you think. If he has another 5-7, he might be gone.
I expect that team's probably going to surprise a few people. They're not going to have
And
a
go
great
4-8,
year.
3-9. What kind
No,
of surprise are you talking?
look, they're going to make. How about this? They'll make a bowl game this year.
It's really hard to make a bowl game. You can make a bowl being 5-7 now or some shit.
It is hard to make a bowl game at South Carolina. I think that is true, especially in today's football, because remember the fact that it's now it's not only about that, but it's also about money. And South Carolina ain't gonna jump out as freaking somebody that's paying everybody. So he's got an even harder job. I expect them to make a bowl game, maybe even win 7 games. I mean, and to me, that's a pretty good job when Brent Venables, with a much better program and things handed to him in a much better situation, is going to come out and probably win 5. So
yeah. Well, I'll tell you right now, I think Shane Beamer might be close to the hot seat also.
Let me ask you this right before you say that, finish that statement. What program is better and gives their coaches more to work with? Auburn, Oklahoma, South Carolina.
Auburn.
And even if you wanted to argue, you'd argue Oklahoma. You ain't going to argue South
Yeah.
Carolina, and Shane Beamer's going to have as good a record as both of those two guys this year.
When Steve Spurrier was there, the old ball coach, we weren't saying this. They were in the top 10. Aggies beat them with, what was that quarterback's name we had that came out of nowhere and beat the hell out of South Carolina? Mattress Mac put all that money down. You remember that?
Hill. Kenny Trill.
Yeah. Kenny Trill the Hill. Kenny Thrill the Hill or something. Anyway, South Carolina, there's talent.
I think that was
Clemson's in the same
Muschamp, by the
state,
way.
the East
I think that
Coast.
was Muschamp. I'm pretty sure that was Muschamp.
Either way, they still had the talent. Clowney, they had Clowney, they had all sorts of guys.
One big recruit. No, you're right. I mean,
No,
so
they had that
in
wide
the
receiver
past,
that's in the pros also.
look, no, you're right. And in the past, I mean, they just had a wide receiver drafted, right? But in the past, they've had a little bit, maybe a little bit more talent, specifically when the ball coach was there. But the ball coach brought a reputation from Florida that you're not getting with any of these guys. I mean, Muschamp's just sucks, so I'm not even going to bring him up. But I do give Shane Beamer some credit. I think this program was taken down as far as it can go right before he was there by Muschamp, who just ruined that place after the ball coach.
If I came to you and said, Lejo, there's 3 job openings and you're available for all 3, it's Kentucky, Missouri, or South Carolina. Which one of those 3 do you take? Because you got to think about location, recruiting, facilities, everything else. Who do you take?
This is an easy answer. Missouri.
No, South Carolina all day. It is an
All
easy answer. It
day.
is an easy
Every
answer. See,
day.
you just failed the test already. You're
Missouri.
done. F.
Missouri.
No, you take
Uh,
South Carolina.
you
They're
tell
in the
me
recruiting
which
hotbed.
one's
Missouri's not a
won,
recruiting hotbed.
which one of those programs has won an SEC East title in the last 10 years, 15 years? It sure as
I
hell
don't
ain't
know. Did
South Carolina. It ain't South
they not win
Carolina.
SEC East?
It ain't Kentucky.
It's not about them winning. I'm just saying, if you were a head coach, you said, "Hey, these 3 jobs are opening. This is what they have to offer." Who do you take? I'd go to South Carolina in a heartbeat. I don't
Missouri.
pass. I pass
And you
up
know what else
Missouri
happens in
and I
Missouri?
pass up
You
Kentucky.
know what else Missouri's done? Missouri's also passed laws to make things better for that program because of the NIL rules. Missouri.
Oh,
That's what I
okay.
would take.
Well, you're
After
wrong. Go
those,
ahead.
that group, by the way, after that group, we've got the bottom 4 here. And this is where I mostly take offense here. They've got Jeff Levy last just because of the fact that he doesn't have any head coaching experience. Look, if Arnett was still at Mississippi State, I would probably have him at 16.
Oh,
But
he was
Jeff
terrible.
Levy, just the fact that there's a chance that these guys might score a bunch of points and be fun to watch, I think brings him up this list a little bit. And I would probably put all 3 of the other guys that we haven't spoken about, Clark Lee, Sam Pittman, and Billy Napier, below Jeff Levy.
I would definitely put Sam Pittman down there. I think he is the seat's really hot for him and Billy Napier. I can see both of them not having a job after this season. Clark Lee, that's just a bad situation. That is a terrible situation. It's a tough job. I think if he wins 4 games at Vanderbilt, they'll be happy every year. He could go 4-8 the rest of his career and be there for another 10 years.
I think if you said 5 and 7 for the next 10 years, I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that's winning 1 SEC game. He wins 1 SEC game a year, and they're like, yeah.
You know, I do feel bad for Clark Lee, but I also think that he's one of the worst coaches in this league. But that's the only guy. That's the only guys that they're going to get to come into Vanderbilt, right? Is a guy that that's his alma mater, right? I mean, like, so nobody else was hiring that dude. Nobody else was giving him a D1 job. That's just a fact.
I'll tell you what, Sam Pittman I'd hire tomorrow as offensive line coach. So if he got fired, I like Sam Pittman a
No,
lot.
I think. Look, I love
I
Sam
like him a
Pittman. I
lot.
think he's a dude, man. I'd love to hang out with him. Let's go drink some beer.
Yeah,
But I wouldn't. I think Sam Pittman is. I think he is satisfied.
maybe.
I think he is just rolling along, man. And like I said, I like him. I like him as a person, whatever. Sam Pittman better turn it around this year. He's not going to make it through the year. He might have hired his replacement in Bobby Petrino, which is a little ridiculous, right?
Nah,
But
he
the
didn't
fact of
hire
the matter is
Bobby
that team in
Petrino.
the last 3 years, he overachieved in year 1, 9-4 over there. Year 2,
Yeah,
7-6, they were like, oh, okay, that's about what you're. And then he got to 4-8. And I'm sorry, that team shouldn't be 4-8, and not with a 4th-year starter at quarterback and all the different things. He hired Dan Enos as an offensive coordinator, which is a horrible hire. He's made a ton of bad decisions in that sense. You know, they play Okie State in week 2. He may get fired after that game. because
Maybe.
honestly, if they run them out of the freaking stadium against a Big 12 team,
Yeah.
then folks over there might just say, "Well, we might as well end this and just let Petrino go run with this show for the rest of the year, see what he can do."
Well, that's a pretty good Oklahoma State team too.
It is.
They got a lot of coming back, I think.
Yeah, yeah, they got a ton coming back. So I agree. Look, we talked about this earlier, and I agree with you. I think Sam Pittman is 16 at this point.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if I'd
Napier's
have
gonna get
Billy
fired too.
Napier,
Yeah,
Napier at
he's gonna get fired.
15, Clark Lee at 14. Those two guys are right there. But yeah, Napier, end of the day, 6-7, 5-7 at Florida is just not going to cut it. And they got an incredibly tough schedule where they could potentially lose to 10 teams on that schedule.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
they
they're
have
going
a
to go
really,
2-10, but they could.
really bad. That's a really tough schedule.
You know what I don't get also? Everybody's, talking big about Mertz and all this stuff. Oh, a great year, yada, 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 and all this. That offense was ranked like number 50 something, right? In the country. It's like, what are we praising here? What exactly are we praising? And we know the defense was bad. I mean, I don't know. I'm way down on Billy Napier. So yeah, I think he's right there at the bottom. So if it's Sam Pittman from 16, Sam Pittman, Billy Napier 15, maybe Clark Lee at 14, and I'd put Jeff Levy up at 13. And that's our list. I think we know two things, Corey. We know who the worst one is, and we know who the best one is. I think we feel pretty good about those two.
I think we know who the second best is and who the second worst is.
Yeah.
Second best, we're saying DeBoer. The second worst is Napier.
Right.
And we're a little bit, you're wrong on a lot of stuff. So I mean that's nothing new, but that's just the way it is. I love Elko. I love to hire Elko here. I just want to see him do it first. I don't want to sit there and say he's one of the best coaches on this list until I see it at
But
A&M. It's
I,
not Duke.
I agree with you for sure. He needs to do it, right? I'm just saying that if they gave me this list of coaches to choose from to hire at A&M, not anywhere else, at A&M.
Yeah.
If this is my list, clearly I would want to hire Kirby Smart first.
Right.
I want to hire DeBoer second.
Okay. Why didn't we even go after DeBoer? Why didn't we go after DeBoer?
I don't know. I don't know that we didn't.
After you said that, I mean, why do you think about that at all? I mean, like, oh, it's Mark Stoops.
Yeah, I've got a problem. I've got a serious problem with that, right? I've got a serious problem with that they didn't go after DeBoer. I think that is a huge mistake. I think that was a huge mistake.
Yeah, right? I agree.
Because I would hire him in 3.5 seconds before, way, way, way ahead of Mike Elko. But after this list, who would I hire next? It might be Mike Elko. As far as for A&M.
Nah, I mean I like Heupel. I like Heupel. I like
Heupel might be the next coach at Oklahoma.
Maybe. I don't know.
Questions from the tailgate, Corey.
Huh?
Questions from the tailgate, Corey.
Do it.
Surprise team in 2024. Let's start with the SEC.
All right. 2 surprise teams from the SEC. 2. Number 1, Texas. They're going to be surprisingly bad. Surprisingly bad.
Yeah.
And number 2, I had LSU. I think LSU is going to be on the surprisingly bad also list because I think they're both around the 8.5 or 9.5 to 10 wins. I see about 8 to 9 maybe for both. I don't think that's surprisingly bad. I just think it's underachieving for what they are. The team that I think is going to surprise people in the SEC for win wise, you won't like it, but I think it's Auburn.
Oh, I completely disagree with you about Auburn, but I'm going to tell you my surprise team in the SEC is Texas A&M. Clearly,
well, I didn't want to say the obvious. I didn't want to state the obvious because.
But no, I think let's say I leave A&M out. I've got.
You gotta say surprise team.
Yeah, I've got another one, and a lot of people think Alabama's on their way down, so it's Alabama. I think it's Alabama because I I think they may win the SEC. I think, actually, as a matter of fact, I'm going to call it now. I think they will win the SEC next year.
Okay, that's a kiss of death for Alabama. Don't put any money
That,
on them.
yeah, put it
Don't put
down.
any money on
How
Alabama. Don't
about in
do
the
it.
country? Any surprise team in the country that you expect in the country? Somebody that you expect kind of out of the blue?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking of those Big 12 teams. I'm thinking like a team like Kansas who has a quarterback return in
Yeah.
Daniels and some guys people aren't
And
really talking
Foster,
about them.
and they just landed Foster as an offensive lineman.
Foster, our Foster?
Yeah,
Oh, that's terrible for them. They don't
yeah.
want him.
You no longer like him, right?
Well, he doesn't play football. He's a track guy. He no, I'd say somebody like Kansas could be a surprise team. I'm trying to think in the ACC.
Let me give you one. Nebraska.
Why?
I'm not saying they're going to go to college football playoff,
Why?
but I think that they're going to be better than people expect. I really like Matt Rule as a college football coach, and yeah, so I think they're just going to continue to get better this year, and I expect that team to compete. You know,
He was there last year, wasn't he?
yeah, yeah, and they got better last year. He's much better than Scott Frost, right?
Well,
That's not
yeah.
saying much. I understand.
Yeah, I'm about to
Not
say,
saying
yeah.
much. But yeah, and like I said, I don't know that they're not gonna be like 10-2 or whatever, but give them 9 wins or 8, 9 wins.
See, okay, like guys like Scott Frost, he was I thought he was a decent coach at UCF. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what what happens to these guys when they get to the big stages? Too big for them?
Yeah, I mean, but Scott Frost had coordinators and everything else that he had over there at UCF, and then all of a sudden he did everything at UCF. And there's a difference. There's a difference about as a head coach when you're a small program and you can take over everything and still have the time to run everything. But then you show up at a big program and your time is divided, right? Your time is divided because you have to be an actual head coach, not a coordinator, not a play caller, not a this. And so, yeah, it's a different situation, and you can't just X's and your O's your way out of a game because you're playing against competition that's got just as good as athletes as you do, and probably clearly better coaching.
I'll tell you what, another surprise team, UCF. KJ Jefferson's going to be their quarterback. Heard that today.
With Gus Malzahn, right?
Yeah. I can
There you
see
go.
and they're in a Big 12 that's kind of they don't have Oklahoma or Texas anymore. Your big dog is what, Kansas State and Oklahoma State? I mean,
Yeah, but Utah.
right? Oh yeah, Utah. I like Utah. I don't think Utah's a surprise team though. I just like them.
No, yeah, they're probably one of the favorites there for sure. How
All
about
right.
question number 2? Biggest question for Aggies on offense, and then we'll talk about defense. What's the biggest question for the Aggies on the offense?
Lines on both sides. Lines on both sides is what I'm worried about. Offensive line always gonna be an issue. I'm excited to see the play calling. I want to see what that is, but that's a question. So play calling, how we're going to do it.
You can't have
Uh,
7 biggest questions.
I have a
One
lot of. Well, you got
biggest.
a new coaching staff. We got a whole new coaching staff. We had a shitty
Choose
offensive line last year. We
one
have a
biggest.
quarterback coming back off of injury. We lost our top 2 receivers. Yeah, I got a lot of questions. I got like 20.
Which one's the biggest?
Offensive line.
All right, I agree with you 100%. I
O-line.
don't think it's any question. Offensive line is the biggest question. If that offensive line plays well, this offense is going to roll.
But I
I
mean, I
really
got more questions than that. I mean, is Colin is his injury healed? Is
sure
our tight end is
there's
he
questions.
healthy? It
You know
is
what?
our tight
Yes,
end healthy?
there are other questions.
I
But
got
if the
lots.
offensive line is good, all those other questions ain't gonna matter because yeah, let's say because one, Colin Klein, I think he's gonna be an incredible improvement over the play caller over the last few years. I fully expect this team to score more touchdowns and less field goals. Prior to this coming year, they were all field goals, no touchdowns, right? The red zone efficiency is going to be better. And yes, do we know who the number 1 wide receiver is, number 2 wide? No, but I think there's enough talent there that especially if this offensive line can perform, that they're going to be able to get the ball. And look, Connor
Yeah.
Wigman's I think Connor Wigman's our guy. But if he ain't healthy, I love Marcel Reed. And I've got no problem putting that guy
He's
into
not
the
even
mix.
number 2. He's not even number
Oh,
2.
he will be when Connor Wigman gets hurt.
Oh God. When he gets hurt. Thanks. Good.
If.
Jinx. No, you said when. You said when
I
he
know.
gets hurt.
How about defensively? What's your biggest question?
D line again. You
Oh,
lose Jackson.
I think that's completely wrong.
That's me.
100%
Well, then don't ask
completely
my
wrong.
opinion, jackass. I'm telling you, it's the right one. You lose two players, potential first round pick in Nolan, not a first round pick, but yeah, he might be. And then Jackson's gone, and you lose all that depth. You lost a lot of depth. And
Let me tell you who was better than Nolan. Shamar Turner. He's back and starting on the inside.
he is going to start on the inside.
Yeah, Nick Scorton. Nick Scorton's
I
better
like
than
Scorton.
any defensive end that played on this team last year.
I
Nick
agree.
Scorton.
I'm not worried
And
about the interior. I'm worried about the interior. I'm not worried about
yeah,
the.
look, I see it. No, look, I do see your point on the interior. Obviously, McKinley Jackson, losing McKinley Jackson, Walter Nolan, those are big losses. Both of those guys are
Huge.
players. Are players. I think that we've got enough depth of the guys that we've brought in over the years that's going to be okay. I think with Shamar Turner, you can even Shamar Stewart at times playing inside especially on passing downs, and Albert Regis, right? Still,
What's up with Dindy? Is Dindy back?
Brownlow Dindy, I don't count. He just hasn't panned out. He's always hurt. But you've
He
got
is always hurt.
the big Hawaiian. You got the big Hawaiian getting in there. You got DJ Hicks, another 5-star defensive lineman in his second year. They always take a big jump. I think these guys
Yeah.
are going to be enough to help there. My biggest question to me is one that you've harped on the whole time, and I thought you were going to go to right away. Is that
Don't say linebacker.
linebacker, right?
Don't say linebacker.
Of
That's what I was
course.
going to say.
Of
Yeah.
course. It's a linebacker. It's a
Yeah.
linebacker.
Yeah.
So, but you said that a
Well, I
bunch
mean, you got
already.
what's his name coming back? York in the middle. That's huge. That's huge. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
but you don't
you're not going
have
to replace. You're not going to replace your All American Cooper right tomorrow. But I mean, our second. I feel more comfortable with our secondary than I did last year. I like our secondary better. I like the
yeah.
DBs and
Yeah.
safeties, but linebacker, just the middle of the field is where I'm worried about on defense.
Yeah. Well, brother, a lot of good disagreements today.
No, it's not. Once again, see, you're wrong. It's not.
It's
You're
me being
wrong,
right and you
and
being
I'm
wrong.
right.
I
It's
know.
not a
I know.
disagreement.
I know. It's a disagreement
There's
because you're wrong.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a disagreement. It's just me showing you that you're wrong.
I love it. I love
All
it.
right, man. I'm gonna
All
go
right, my
watch the
brother.
game and get ready to go to bed. Good night.
Later.